In this lesson we are going to talk about architectural acoustics. Okay, we already know what that is. So we are going to now start off with reflection of sound. Okay, so just like the reflection of light, sound is also reflected from obstacles whenever the obstacles are having dimensions which are much greater than the wavelength of the sound. Okay, so if your wavelength of the sound is much smaller than the dimensions of the obstacles, then you are going to get reflections. Okay, so your sound is going to get reflected from that obstacle. Okay, so generally what happens is when we hear a sound, the perception of that sound stays in our mind for about 100 milliseconds. Okay, so 100 milliseconds is around 0.1 seconds. Okay, so the perception of any auditory stimuli stays for around 100 milliseconds. Okay, so just see what happens if you have a source of sound, okay, and you have, let's say, an obstacle over here. Okay, so you have a source of sound and there is a guy over here which is listening. Okay, listening basically means this source of sound finally reaches to this guy and this guy is able to hear what this sound is producing. Okay, now since over here we have an obstacle as well, what's gonna happen is the sound wave is going to reflect from this obstacle, and what this guy is going to hear is the reflected sound as well. Okay, so basically if I draw this figure again, I have a source over here. Okay, I have my guy over here who's listening. I have some kind of an obstacle over here. So first what happens is the source is emitting some sound and that sound is heard by this guy. Okay, now sound is being produced in all directions. Okay, let's just assume this is a point source, then you're going to have sound being produced in all particular directions. Okay, so in this direction also we have sound waves, in this direction we have got some sound waves. Okay, so the sound waves which are traveling in this direction, they are going to be reflected from this obstacle and they are going to reach this guy. Okay, so this particular guy is going to hear this particular sound twice. Once he is going to hear the original sound as produced by this particular source, and after some time he is also going to hear the reflected sound from this particular obstacle. Okay, so this reflected sound is known as the echo. Okay, so the echo is the reflected sound from the source after being hit with the obstacle. Okay, now echo is something that happens after 100 milliseconds of the original sound. Okay, so if the distance, or rather the time difference between the original sound and the reflected sound is greater than 100 milliseconds, then we are clearly able to distinguish between the two sounds, that is the original sound and the reflected sound, and we say that we hear an echo. Okay, so you can say that echo is reflection after 100 milliseconds of original sound. Okay, or rather you can say that reflection that is received after 100 millisecond of original sound. Okay, that's a better way to look at it. So it's the reflection of the sound that is received after 100 milliseconds of the original sound. Okay, it might also happen that this distance, okay, is not